Hello everyone, if you're new here welcome back to my channel. My name is Baby Bats and you can call me Baby Bats. And today, you guys, I'm going to be talking about a topic that I usually don't dive into on this channel. I know I've only made like 3 videos, but sorry, I just have to make sure my wig doesn't look crazy. But today, I'm going to be talking about a very controversial topic, and that is Jefferre Star in the trans community. So, yeah, I know I'm gonna probably get a lot of hate on this video, because, like I said, well, I don't think I've said this before, but I'm Christian. I'm also non-binary and a little, so if you do have hate towards my videos, I really don't care, because I'm happy being me, and, you can suck it. But anyways, so I just watched a video, where a trans woman reacted to Jefferre Star talking about transgender people and children. Let me say that again. Transgender people and children. Now, Jefferre Star is a huge, controversial man. I'm going to say that one more time. He's a very controversial man. Now, I don't have the time to be getting into the entire Jefferre Star iceberg, but if you know, you guys probably know who Jefferre Star is. Apparently Jefferre Star found God and is no longer gay. Okay. Good for you. I'm glad that you have kind of found yourself, because in 2 seconds he's going to be gay again. We all know this. This is like the epitome of YouTubers. They find God and then they go right back to the same shit 2 days later. But yes, so let's dive into the topic of Jefferre Star and the trans community. First off, I want to say this is coming from a place of not hate, but not love. Now, as somebody who used to worship Jefferre Star, bought pretty much all of his palettes and his mirrors as a child, which I have now thrown away. Yeah, my 19th birthday, I did a Jefferre Star birthday bash, where I literally smashed the items that I bought from him. Yeah. 22 now, on my 19th birthday, I decided that Jefferre Star was a piece of trash. And I destroyed all the items that I got from him over the years, and yes, that was like $1,000 down the drain, probably even more money, and I just I fucking broke that shit through it, and I was done. When I was done, I cleaned it up, and I had a cake, and I had a great 19th birthday, my Jefferre Star birthday bash. Anyways, so let's get back into the topic we're gonna talk about today. So I watched this video by a woman who's a trans woman. Her name is Samantha Lux. If you don't know who that is, she's a trans woman. She's absolutely stunning. She's gorgeous. Please go subscribe to her channel. I love her videos. I think she's such a great person. But we're here to talk about Jefferre because Jefferre has been in some shit lately with the trans community. Now, as a person that is non-gender confirming and uses they them pronouns, I fit underneath the trans umbrella. Now, I'm not trans myself, but I am non-binary, so I kind of fit in that, the whole trans umbrella. You can go and like look up a picture of it on like Google, but it's trans and then it's non-binary. I fit underneath the category of non-binary, using they them pronouns. I have been told so many times to pick a side. I don't know how many times a day I get asked what gender I am, what gender's in my pants, or whatever you want to call it. Now, as a trans person who does bind occasionally, sometimes I bind when I'm feeling like it, I don't want to pick a gender because I don't feel like I'm either gender. Like I said, I've been non-binary for about 4 years now, and I just don't feel like I need to pick a gender because I don't feel like any one gender. I dress like a man, I dress like a female. I dress like a person. I'm just another human being on this earth who's just trying to get through life without somebody shitting on my community. You know what I mean? Not as in my community, but the community that I fall underneath. Like, come on, let's not be mean to people. Especially not trans people. These human beings have so much shit that they have to go through, and for Jefferre Star, an ex-trans man, to come and just trash on them and trans children is disgusting. It makes me sick to my stomach that he is trashing a whole community of people, especially children. Now, there was one point that Jefferre made, and there was only one good point in that video. This person named Lilith, I don't know Lilith personally, but I've heard a lot about her, and Now, I'm not going to say the things that Jefferre was saying, but there are some controversial things she did say and does, but she's not a predator at all. Like, Lilith is not a predator. I don't see anything predatory about her. I've, like, heard about her, but I don't think that she's a predator. And the reason why I say it's a good point is because she does do some crazy things, but that woman's not a predator. She's just a trans woman being a trans woman. And for you to go as far as saying she's a predator for going into the bathroom at Disneyland to, with women and children, she's just a trans woman using the bathroom. Okay, yes, she has dressed in very weird outfits, but she's literally just a trans woman dressing in an outfit at Disney World. Okay, it's an amusement park for children, but it's also a place for adults too. Like, yeah, I don't even know why I said that. That's not even a good point. And then he, like, wraps the whole trans community in, like, a tight little bundle of, well, they're all predators. Oh, they just want to get into, like, the women's bathrooms to touch children and women. That's not true at all. There's the 1%, and I say 1% of trans people, and that's only 1%, and it's barely a percentage. But to wrap an entire community of people into being, oh, well, they're predatorial. They're just doing it so they can get into the women's bathroom so they can touch people. Or they're just doing it to get into the men's bathroom so they can touch people. That is a very, very minuscule amount of people that do that. But for the actual trans people who are really stuck in the wrong body that they were given at birth, that is so messed up of you to say that about those people. Now, as somebody who has been friends with trans people, you're really fucked up for saying that, dude. That's really messed up of you to say about those people. Do you know how many times a year, or the percentage of trans people who do commit suicide because of people like you and others that talk shit about them? Do you know how many people have to go through the amount of therapy and trauma that they have to relive when they're talking to a therapist? Just to take HRT and testosterone, you have to go through so much therapy and so much trauma that you have to relive. It is not okay for you to sit there and bash an entire community of people who are just trying to live life normally. Okay, and then he makes another awful point, and I just do not like the fact that he made this point, but he makes the point that trans people are mentally ill because they think they're trans. And they are trans. These people who are trans know that they are trans. And yes, there is a form of mental illness in trans people, but trans people are not mentally ill. Just because they're trans does not make them mentally ill. Transgenderness is not an illness. It is not a mental illness, okay? Let me say that again. Transgenderism is not a mental illness. Now, some people have what's called gender dysphoria. Gender dysphoria is a form of mental illness that happens in trans people who look in the mirror and see themselves and they're like, well, that's not right. Well, that's also not right. I don't have a beard. I have breasts. I have a vagina. I have female features. I have less masculine features. Honey, you were a gay man. You were in a full face of glam with a blue wig. You look female to me. Now, if I wasn't, if I had never met Jefferre and I had never done and seen the history, I would have thought that he was a trans man, as in female. I would have thought that Jeffree Star was a trans woman. At first glance, he does look like a trans woman because he's sitting there with his legs crossed, his hands over his knee, and talking shit about an entire community when he looks like a trans woman himself. So, yeah, Jefferre, you look stupid when you say these things in a full face of glam with a long blue wig. You're literally wearing a long blue wig with a full face of makeup, and you're talking shit about a whole community. Now, let's get past the adults. Then he goes on to talk about children. And this is the part that makes me mad. And get ready for this, because this is going to be a rant. Now, he starts talking about trans children and gender-affirming care, and goes on to say, well, parents are encouraging their children to be trans. That's not a thing. Does he not know that's not a thing? Yes, there are some parents that are the non-binary parents and they raise their children to let their children pick their gender, but 9 times out of 10, the children have to beg their parents to get gender-affirming care, whether that be HRT, top or bottom surgery. Some children get kicked out of their homes by their parents because they are trans. They end up going on the streets and living on the streets. I'm not going to get more into that topic very deeply because it is disgusting that a person would kick their child out of their home at ages as young as 14 because they identify as trans. Disgusting, actually. There is the parents that are like, well, if you want to transition, and now I do agree with gender confirming care, but at the right age. Now, if you are 16 and you want to transition, I'm okay with that. 14, 13, but some children are starting HRT and all these hormones as young as 6. Now, it's not that I'm not okay with it, I just think that they're too young to be transitioning at that age, but I'm never gonna hate on anybody. If my child came up to me one day, which I don't have children currently, but I will one day, and my child comes up to me and says, Mommy, I was born in the wrong body, I'm not gonna shun my child. I'm not gonna tell them, no, that's not okay. I'm gonna be like, well, let's talk about this, because whether my child be 4, 5, 15, 16, whatever, I'm going to look at my child and I'm going to tell them that it's okay that you were born in the wrong body. If I have children, if my child comes up to me, my little girl, my little boy, and confesses to me that, Mommy, I'm not the right gender, I'm going to look at my child and I'm going to talk to my child like they are a human being. And I'm going to call my child and refer to them as the name that they want to be referred to as and the gender they want to be referred to as, because I'm not a monster. No. As somebody who grew up in a not a conservative house, but a house, my mother growing up, she wasn't, fully aware that I did grow up as a tomboy. I did not like very girly things. There was a phase where I was girly. There was a phase where I was a tomboy. There was a phase where I just vibed with whatever gender I felt like. But at one point I thought that I was gender fluid, but I was like, nah, not really. And then I kind of came out as non-binary to my family, and they were okay with that. My mom wasn't mad at me. My dad wasn't mad at me. And then I came out as pan and poly to my family, and they weren't mad. In fact, they told me that even if you were blue and purple, Leah, we would still love you. If you were, even when I was obese, my mother still loved me, and she still fed me, and she still gave me things that I wanted. And my mother would give me the clothing off her back if she had to. But we're not talking about my mama, even though my mom was a great woman. I love my mother, but we're talking about Jefferre Star and the children and the whole, you know what I mean? If a child is seeking non-gender, gender-affirming care, not non-gender, sorry, I'm thinking of me, my bad. But if a child is seeking out gender-affirming care, it is their right to do that, because they know that they were born in the wrong body, and that's okay. You shouldn't be on here talking about how it's not okay for a child to want gender-affirming care. Okay, whatever, you were, raised in whatever you want to be raised in, whatever, that's your life story, but, what parent is gonna allow their child, you know what I mean? Some kids have to beg their parents, others not so much, because like I said before, non-binary parents raising their children using they them pronouns. When I was about 18, I met a couple and their child's name was River. River used they them pronouns. To this day, River still uses they them pronouns, and they're about 5.5 now, and they still use they them pronouns. Their parents told them that they can choose whatever gender they want. They're 5 and they understand what they them means. They are a non-binary child. And they're not being harmed in the home. They're okay. They're fine. They aren't confused about their gender, because they're going to decide one day that they are what the gender they want to be. Raising a child as non-binary is okay. It's not abuse. It's not neglect. You're letting the child decide what toys they want to play with, what clothing they want to wear. It's just I don't understand how Jefferre can go on to a conservative podcast as an ex-trans man who found God, who's also not a parent. May I remind you, Jefferre Star has no children. He has dogs, okay? This man has Pomeranians. Those aren't humans. Those are dogs. Them's are dogs, man. What the dog doing type stuff. And Jefferre Star is not a parent. Let me say that again. Jefferre, you're not a parent. You cannot sit here and talk over the woman who's allowing you to be on her podcast with her husband, and you're talking over her like you own the show. The fuck? Oh my god. But anyways, I have to go make dinner, so that was a little topic I just wanted to talk about, because Jefferre Star has been caught up in so much controversy, it's not even funny. This man is caught in so much controversy, you'll literally see it every other month, literally, for the past however many years. I think he's been on the internet for 20 plus years. He's been in so many different controversies. But with that, I will see you guys later, and thank you for sitting with me through this rant of why Jefferre Star is such a toxic MFer. Anyways, goodbye, and I'll see you guys later.